I mean, I don't have a ton of knowledge on this. I've been doing a lot of research, a lot of study this week on this topic. So I named the title of the sermon is Life. It's life. It's going to be, one of the verses is, children's church. Oh, I forgot. Sorry, kids. I know they're all waiting to go down, so if you can go down to children's church. Whitney's going down right now.
Oh, look at my little pen.
Okay, one of the Bible verses we're going to be looking at today is Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, where God talked to Jeremiah. So, Sanctity of Life Sunday really had its beginnings on January 20th, 1974. Some of you might know what happened on that day. You ever hear of Roe v. Wade? That's the day that decision was made. Okay? There was a group of people who decided to gather together. They were pro-lifers to take a stand for the unborn. And so they did a little march to show where these people stood on this decision that would be made about legalizing abortion. So, Sanctity of Life Sunday really had its beginnings back on January 22nd of 1974. President Reagan issued a presidential proclamation on January 13th of 84, 10 years later, designating Sunday, January 22nd of 1984 as National Sanctity of Human Life Day. I really believe that President Reagan was a pro-lifer. I don't think he believed in the decision the Supreme Court made on behalf of the United States of America. And so he instituted a day where we were going to have a Sanctity of Human Life Day. Now, what the Christian church kind of did after that is, instead of just observing it on that 22nd, the church has kind of taken the third Sunday in January and made it Sanctity of Life Sunday. Okay? That's what we've done as a church now since Ronald Reagan stood up and made this decision in 84. It's still celebrated on January 22nd. There's going to be another march tomorrow in Washington, D.C. You may see it on the news. I heard in the news that there was already one that happened on Friday last week, but the official day is tomorrow, but the church is celebrating Sanctity of Life Day on the third Sunday of January. And so this is kind of the topic of the sermon today. I have a few more little slides here just to show you how popular this has really become and how serious some people take this issue. On January 22nd of 87, as pro-lifers began their annual pilgrimage to Washington, D.C. for the March for Life, many faced a terrible snowstorm. Despite the horrible snowstorm, police estimated that 10,000 people trod through the deep snow that day. Some of the articles I read said that there was a foot of snow in D.C. on that day. And 10,000 people were there. Now, this is only about 3 years after the kickoff, 2 years after Ronald Reagan made his decision. But this really shows to me how important it was for these 10,000 people to head out in a severe snowstorm, to be there, to be able to do a peaceful march on Washington. It shows the importance of this issue, not only to our country, but to us as Christians. And then in 1998, to commemorate the 25th anniversary of Roe and Doe, the dedication of pro-life Americans was proven again with an unexpected number of marchers. The rally featured 3 former pro-abortion activists who had become pro-lifers. So it began to grow. By 98, it was starting to really gain steam, and more people were actually getting to be a part of this march in Washington, D.C. In March of 2009, the march in 2009 was held 2 days after the inauguration of President Barack Obama, who had expressed his support of abortion. Perhaps in response, the March for Life estimated that it was the largest march to date, with hundreds of thousands of participants. So people were standing up. When the people in America, the Christians who don't support abortion, heard that Barack Obama supported it, they came out in droves to Washington, D.C. And so these rallies have become more and more popular. More and more people are taking a stand for their faith, stand for the biblical standards of what God has put forth to us. And so this day, this Sanctity of Life Sunday, really has its roots back with Ronald Reagan, but even further back in '74, where some people, thousands of people, took a stand against abortion. So now I want to take and change the root of our sermon a little bit, because this is something that I found out this week as I was really studying this. And I have an article here. This came from Focus on the Family. It's written by a woman who actually had an abortion. So she knows what she's talking about, right? And she says that when a woman heads into an abortion clinic, she faces 3 lies. And these are the 3 lies that she writes about, that she faced, and she talks about them a little bit. Let me read lie number 1. Abortion is the cure-all for unwanted pregnancy. When they go into these abortion clinics, this is what they're told. It's a cure-all for this unwanted pregnancy. She goes on to write this. I believed that my abortion would erase my pregnancy and make my life as it was before. That wasn't true for me or for anyone. Pregnancy changes a woman. Whether it results in abortion, miscarriage, or childbirth, she is forever changed. For many women, abortion can lead to physical, psychological, and emotional harm. Whether this manifests as complications with future pregnancies or struggles with substance abuse, abortion is not without consequence. She's writing this firsthand. She went through this. She experienced it. There are some ladies who actually pass away going through this process. It's something you don't hear about a lot, but it's actually true. They do pass away going through an abortion. So it harms them physically. Some ladies can't get pregnant again if something goes wrong during an abortion. So they have to deal with that. How long do they deal with that? The rest of their lives. The one thing that really she struggled with wasn't substance abuse, but some people turn to that because, why? Because Satan digs his way in there. He likes to accuse. He likes to keep you in the forefront of your mind what happened. And he uses that against you. Some people turn to drugs and alcohol to kind of ease the pain. This woman, she talks about in her story, and you'll have to go to Focus on the Family to get her whole story, but she talks about the emotional problems that she went through. She was 18 years old in high school when she got pregnant. She had an abortion. After high school, she actually married the man that got her pregnant, and they had 2 children. And she said in her story that she was an emotional roller coaster for her. Because each time she gave birth to a child, she kept remembering the one that was aborted. And that she had some deep, deep depressions. The first marriage didn't work out right. She got married again. She ended up with 11 children overall. Makes you wonder if that abortion didn't lead to having 11 children. What were the emotional things that were going through her mind? But she did say that each child she gave birth to brought back that memory of what happened when she was 18 years old. So there are emotional scars. It changes a person forever. The next lie she talks about is this. She says abortion is about choice. Pro-choice, you ever hear that word? Those words? She goes on to say, ironically, the word choice is closely identified with abortion. Yet many women report that a perceived abortion of choice pushes them towards abortion. The most common reason women give for abortion is the lack of resources to give birth and fear of losing their place in school or the workforce. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. Too often, abortion is a decision a woman makes. Now listen, too often an abortion is a decision a woman makes when her back is against the wall. She said, I felt that way too. Abortion is no choice if you think it's the only choice. One of the decisions when a woman's making this decision whether to have an abortion or not is the cost of raising a child. How am I going to support this child? Many of these women got into their situation because of choices they made. And now they feel their back is against the wall and they have no other choice than to do this. So is it really a choice? Is what this lady is saying in the article. And the third lie is this. Abortion empowers women. This equally powerful lie emerged during the 1960s in the campaign to legalize abortion. Radical feminists claimed that readily available abortions would enable women to control their lives under the banner of choice. We are assured that abortion would empower a woman with opportunities in business, education, and society. Many women like me believed this was true, yet that's not what happened. Legalized abortion didn't promote cultural change to better serve women. Instead, abortion became society's contingency plan, creating the expectation that a woman would take advantage of legal abortion. She had even fewer choices, not more. There's a lot of people out there facing some very difficult times. Facing a child that they don't know how to care for. They don't know how they're going to support. In many cases, aren't going to have a father. They go into these abortion clinics and they're lied to. They think this is a cure-all, but it emotionally scars them for the rest of their lives. So I have a video I want you to watch, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what can we do. Elbridge Community Church, what can we do? So what can we do? What can Elbridge Church do? Did you notice at the very beginning of that video, and I know there were a lot of touching things on there. The heart starts beating at 22 months, and then went through the process of the life of that child and the different things that, hearing begins at a certain time, and they gain weight fast or they grow fast. But the one thing that really caught me in that video was the questions at the beginning. There's many, many women who are facing a really difficult decision. And they don't know the truth. They don't know the truth. So I think we as Christians, we need to know what to do. When we come across somebody who may be in this decision, maybe it's a family member, we need to know what to do. Okay? So I kind of put a list of things. First of all, don't judge. Do not judge, or you will be judged. In the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the same measure you use, it will measure to you. The last thing these ladies who are facing this decision need is to be judged by you or me, any Christian. They're in a difficult spot. Many of them know they made a bad decision when they decided to create a baby. The last thing they need is a Christian person, maybe a Christian mom or dad, saying, "You got yourself into this, get yourself out." That's not what we should do. We can't judge them for where they are. It's hard. It's a difficult decision. They're in a difficult spot. Most of these ladies are young. They haven't made difficult decisions before. And they're facing a life and death decision. So let's not judge them. Let's come alongside of them and love them. Right, Bob? That's what they need. That's what they need. Let's not judge them. The next thing is be prepared to show grace and mercy. James 2:13 says, mercy trumps judgment. Praise be to God. Now let me ask you, has God ever been merciful to you? Has he been gracious to you? Man, he's been overly gracious to me and overly merciful to me. What he's expecting from me is to show that same grace and mercy to other people. The Bible tells us that when we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. He didn't say, you guys clean up your act, you guys get it all together, and then I'll show you grace and mercy. No, he just poured it out on us, and he gave it to us. Does anybody in this room deserve God's grace and mercy? Not me, but he gives it anyway. You can look at these people who are making this decision and say they don't deserve to have grace and mercy poured into them, but you and I didn't either. So let's be gracious and merciful to them. Let's come alongside of them and help them. Love. I know Jeff wanted to read this really bad, this verse in front of church this morning, but I wouldn't let him. Because I didn't want him to steal my thunder, But here it is. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. The first and the greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Sometimes these ladies who are facing a very difficult decision like this have never really experienced love. If they've not grown up in a Christian household, they might not have experienced love from their parents. They probably didn't experience real love in the act of creating a baby. It was a lustful thing. What they really need is they really need to know what real love is, what true love is. They've experienced the other kinds of loves, the phileo loves, the eros loves, but they might have never experienced agape love. The only way they can experience agape love is from you and I, born-again believers. The Bible says we love because he first loved us. Christ poured out agape love into our lives. That's a self-sacrificial love. That's what these women need as they're facing this decision. They need somebody to come alongside of them and love them. Not love them in the way the world has loved them, because that's not love at all. To love them with agape love. To love them with the kind of love that Christ demonstrated for mankind. What else can we do? Be prepared to speak the truth. I read to you parts of this article. I mean, I really abbreviated it quite a bit, but this lady said there were 3 lies that she faced. Did you see the first couple in the video? When does life begin? When does life begin? You know, there's a lot of people in the world think that life begins when a child is born. But the heart starts beating at 22 days. So what's the truth? What's the truth about a child? What's the truth about bringing a baby into the world? What's the truth? We should be prepared to share that with these people. So let's read this verse. Only God is the source of life. Let us make man in our image, in our likeness. And this is what Job says in Job 10:12. You give me life and show me kindness. And in your providence, you watch over my spirit. There's 2 things here. We were created in the likeness and image of God. God is the one in control of life. Nothing has a beginning without God. And if God doesn't sustain us, that's what Job says. That's the second point. We die. We're nothing. You know, the scripture teaches that when a child is conceived, it has a new DNA and a new spirit. Okay? It's a new spiritual being. Being created in the likeness and image of God means that you and I, as human beings, are spiritual beings. So a child, when it's conceived, is a spiritual being. And God is the one who's orchestrated that. It's a miracle from God. If God doesn't do that miracle, it doesn't happen. Because God is the source of life. How many people in our world today really believe that? How many people who are facing an abortion even know this to be true? Life begins at conception. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. This is what God said to Jeremiah. So what does it say? That he had life only after he was born? God said, well, after you were born, I knew you. Is that what God said? He said, no, I knew you. You were a spiritual being in your mother's womb. I knew who you were, and I had plans for you. Do you know that's true of every human being? When you were conceived in your mother's womb, God knew who you were because you were a spiritual being, and he had plans for you. Psalm 139, 13 and 14. For you created me in my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. The psalmist knew that it was God who knit him together. It was God who knew him at conception, not after birth. I'm going to try to tell you what I'm going to tell you without getting angry, because when I watched the video, I was extremely angry. There's a professor from a university in the United States who was on TV that said a fetus does not have an identity until it's born. Before that, it doesn't have an identity. Does that sound like what God says? God says, I knew you before you. I had plans for you. You had identity the moment you were conceived. All human beings have an identity in God the moment they're conceived. This woman goes on to say that when you abort a fetus, because it has no identity, because it was never born, but it has identity if the mother makes the choice to give birth to the baby, then it has an identity as a fetus. But if the mother chooses to abort the baby, it does never have an identity. Boy, if I could have reached through that screen that day. National TV saying stuff like this. Are you prepared to tell the truth to a woman? When she starts to contemplate stuff like that? Sorry. Always forgive. There's three areas of thinking here, but I have a song that I want you to watch. And the guys are getting ready to play that now. It talks about forgiveness, but I want to talk to you about forgiveness in three different really areas after we watch this video.
We prayed the prayer with no reply. Words flowed off into the night. Couldn't cut us out with the sharpest knife. Oh, God, forgive us. Silence isn't comfortable. And we'll drive through peace and instant hope. Shallow faith that has left us broke. Oh, God, forgive us. Oh, God, forgive us. A slave to our uncertainty, helpless with our unbelief. Oh, God, forgive us. Young and old, black and white, or rich and poor, there's no divide. You're the mighty, you're the powerless, singing, oh, God, forgive us. Oh, God, forgive us. A slave to our uncertainty, helpless with our unbelief. Oh, God, forgive us. Forgive us. Yes, we have ignored you. So busy doing your work that we forgot that this was for you. Arms wide to our homeless Savior, but arms crossed to our homeless neighbor. On bended knee, unite us all, set us free. Oh, God, forgive us. A slave to our uncertainty, help us with our unbelief. Oh, God, forgive us.
Forgive. Remember, as I was reading the story of that young lady from Focus on the Family, and I talked about the emotional baggage that they carry afterwards, forgiveness is a big one. They can't forgive themselves, and they don't think God can forgive them. Share with them that God wants to forgive them and will forgive them. That's a biggie for them, because they become emotionally scarred for the rest of their lives. The next one is this. Ask the Father to forgive our nation. You know, I was driving the car the other day, and I was listening to Christian radio, and I heard what was kind of an advertisement, so to speak, about this day that we're celebrating today. And they had coins falling into a jar. Heard about it? You probably did the same thing I did. I cried. I cried. Each coin that was dropped into a jar represented so many thousands of people that were killed in wars that America's been in. And it went back to the Revolutionary War, and there was a few coins dropped in. And then every war had a few coins dropped in. And the Civil War had quite a few more coins dropped in. And there was the Korean conflict and the Vietnam conflict, and a few coins were dropped. I mean, just a few coins, less than a dozen. And then it got to all the conflicts we've had since 9/11 and the war on terror, and there's still a few coins. Actually, less coins. And then they said, now the coins that are being dumped in are the abortions that have happened in America since 1974. And they poured coins, not just dropped a few, poured coins into this jar. And it went on for 20 seconds, 30 seconds. The whole time those coins are pouring into that jar, my eyes are just watering. I can't believe what I'm hearing. God, forgive America for making a decision to legalize murder. To legalize murder. You can't sell somebody with a gun or a knife. Never mind. And how about this last one? Father, forgive us Christians. The one thing I didn't share with you about this day is some of those marches turned violent in the name of Christianity. Some of you might remember this back in the 80s and 90s. Bombings of abortion clinics in the name of Christianity. We as a Christian church haven't handled this very good either. We like to judge. We like to say, you got yourself into this, get yourself out. We don't want to take a stand for what we believe. That's uncomfortable. We don't want other people to know how we feel. That's uncomfortable. God forgive us as a Christian nation, as a Christian people, because we haven't handled this issue very well either. So are we prepared to share forgiveness? You guys remember last week's sermon? It was about a faith that encourages. How does you, demonstrating your faith, encourage other people? And you were encouraged to utilize your faith in such a way to encourage those people around you, and in turn, you encourage yourself. And one of those ways that you demonstrate your faith to other people so they can be encouraged is action. Matthew 25 says this, "Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for me, for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." One of the things that we can do is put our faith into action. We can, Elbridge Community Church, believers here, demonstrate our faith. To not only encourage one another, but to encourage this township that we live in, the villages around us, Hart, Walkerville, Crystal Valley, Hesperia. We can demonstrate to them what we believe, and we can demonstrate a faith that encourages through our actions. And what actions can I take? What are some of the things I can do? Well, get your worship folder out. Look under announcements. At last Sunday's deacons meeting, we talked about something that we're calling Love Project. We recognize that our church does a great job with missionaries all around the world. In fact, Jeff shared with us not too long ago, it's been like $45,000 we've given to missionaries in the last 3 years. But we ask the question, what are we doing here? What are we doing in our communities that's making a difference? So what Love Project really is us, Elbridge Community Church, helping people in our communities. Now, we've done some of this in the past. We did Jeff, what was that drive down to Grand Haven? Hope House. We supported Hope House at Christmas time, remember, with gifts for kids. 4 families, you guys, I'm telling you, I gave so much food away over Christmas. I've never had that much food to give away. I couldn't give it all away at one time. We gave a second wave of food away just a little while ago because you guys were so generous and brought food in. We've done something in our community. But now we want to set a project aside, Love Project, so that we are focused in on our communities, right here around us, and on people we can help. So what can we do today? What can we do today, knowing the information we know? Well, I reached out to West Shore Pregnancy and Family Support. And here's why I reached out. Because the deacon said, what are we doing in our community? And they have a branch in Hart, Michigan. Did anybody know that? You know where it is? I'm going to tell you. I didn't know they had a branch here either in Hart, Michigan. But I went online and I started doing some research on pregnancy centers, and bam! Hart, Michigan. I said, this is perfect. And it supports this day. So I contacted them. My wife has contacted them. The co-director was in my office Friday for quite some time. We talked. She's the one that brought these handouts right here so that you guys could have all the information that we gave you this morning. So I asked her, I said, how can we help you guys? What can we do? Well, there's a list of things here that they need right now, currently, in the Hart office. This isn't some office out in Lansing or whatever. This is in the Hart office. Okay? The list is diapers, newborn, 4s and 5s. Well, I'm not really a lady. I don't know what that means, but you ladies probably know what size those are. Okay? Bottles, mittens for children and parents, pacifiers, winter coats sizes 12 months through 3T, sleepers and PJs size 12 month through 3T. Those are needs. So I don't know where we're going to set up a little collection center. Jeff has some great ideas on that. But we're going to set up a little collection center. We're asking you over the next month to bring stuff in. Okay? These are things that they need. These are the biggest needs here. Now, are there other needs? There probably are, but these are their biggest needs. So I thought, wow, what a great opportunity for us to meet their biggest needs. So we're going to have a little collection area set up for that. Okay? Here's the next one. Volunteers are also needed. Other than Jeff, you can't answer this question. How often is this pregnancy center open in Hart, Michigan right now? Four hours a week. They're open on Wednesday mornings because they have so few volunteers. And when I talked to Barb this week in my office, she said, we're really hurting right now because 3 of our volunteers are snowbirds and they're in Florida. So they're really, really short-handed. She said, I'd really, really like to be able to keep this office open more than a half a day a week. This is where I'm praying right now. Can I make a difference here? My thought was, can our church keep this office open another half a day a week? Can we dedicate enough time to keep this office open another half a day a week? It only takes a few volunteers, 3 or 4 volunteers to be able to do that. Maybe you can dedicate one half a day a month. Maybe it's 1 half a day a week. I don't know where you're at. But this is where Debbie and I are focusing on right now. How can we volunteer? We're going to be sitting down with Pat pretty soon, I hope, in her office to talk about this a little more. But that's the way you can help. You can put your time in, so to speak. You can show your faith through your time. Guys, we got one more video. I want you to watch this video. Now, before you run it, I want to give you a precursor. We're trying out some new programming here at church, so we downloaded the free version. There's a watermark that's going to go across the screen, but they wanted $55 to buy this, but we wanted to try it first. So just kind of look past the watermark. We want to just see if this works before we buy it. Okay? Go ahead and play it.
Good morning, Elbridge Church. I wish I could be with you today in person, but I'm with you in prayer. Were you blessed by Pastor Dennis's Sanctity of Life message? I hope so. We're inviting you to join us as we launch Baby Bottle Boomerang in order to bless for babies in our local community and their families. Pick up a baby bottle on your way out of the service today and take it home. Fill it with silver coins, quarters, nickels, and dimes. Paper money is fine too. And if you'd like to fill a second bottle, you're welcome to do that. Return your filled baby bottle to church on Sunday, February 18th. That's the Sunday right after Valentine's Day.